We are looking at some of the workbook exercises from chapters 10 and 11 of Dwayne Garrett and Jason DeRouchie's A Modern Grammar for Biblical Hebrew workbook, and we will also be looking at the textbook, A Modern Grammar for Biblical Hebrew. Here's the bibliographical information for those books. Let's do some preliminaries here. Let's look at where we get the names for the various verb types. In the Garrett and DeRouchie textbook, they're called verb forms. Other books might call them conjugations. So let's take a look at these names. We know that a verbal root will typically have three letters called R1, R2, and R3, or sometimes they can be called Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3. The paradigm verb for naming Hebrew verbs is the Yiqtol. The root actually means to kill, which is interesting. The names for our verb forms come from this root. And in particular, they come from the cal stem and the third masculine singular. So we have, for the Yiqtol, notice that the third masculine singular in the cal is qatal. So the names of these verbs are simply transliterations of the cal third masculine singulars. So we have qatal or qatal, that's also known as the perfect. The veketal or the weketal comes from when we put a wow or a vav in front of the qatal form. So we have wukatal. The Yiqtol is the 3ms of this particular form, and it has a prefix. So you have this yod prefix, and then you have the holum as the vowel over the second root letter. So that's Yiqtol, and that's where we get the name Yiqtol for that form. And the last one that we'll look at here is the Yiqtol. It has a wow with a patak and then a doubling of that prefix letter. In this case, a yod. Notice the dagesh forte. And so it's Yiqtol. Also notice that the accent has shifted back to the second to last syllable, so it's Yiqtol rather than Yiqtol. And when we write this out, we show that the Y is doubled by writing two Y's in that name, Yiqtol. That dagesh forte is showing us that that yod is doubled. So our names come directly from the actual Hebrew words, and they're simply transliterations of them. Let's look at the kinds of things that we look at when we're parsing a verb. So far we have seen only the suffix form. That would be the perfects. In those cases, we're looking at the suffix. There are no prefixes, and so we're not too worried about other factors that might come into play. We might, at some point, have to be concerned with R2 doubling, but we have not seen any of those because they don't occur in the cal stem. So in general, we are going to look at any kind of prefix consonant. I'll go ahead and write that in. It's going to be a consonant. And those will be, coming from right to left, a yod, tav, aleph, or nun for most of the stems. And for the cal stem, that is true. So, for instance, when we saw the Yiqtol, for that third masculine singular, there was a yod before it. It would also be possible to see a tau. If it comes at the beginning, we'd put a dagesh laney in that. And we could see an aleph. That could be one of those Yiqtol forms. or a noon. So any one of these consonants can show up as a prefix for the Yiqtol form. As we go on in our study of Hebrew, we will need to pay attention to things such as the prefix vowel, the R1 doubling, the R1 vowel, R2 doubling, and the R2 vowel. But for our purposes, we will go on and look at the suffix. To make sense of the suffixes, it's helpful to see them in a chart. So we're over here on page 63 of the textbook, and this first column here in table 10.7 is called affixes, which simply means prefixes and suffixes. So to go back through the prefixes, we see we have yod shows up in two places, and that will be third masculine forms, either singular or plural. Then we have tau. Tau is seen for third feminine forms here and here, both third feminine, singular, and plural. The endings will be different. We'll look at those in a second. And then all the second person forms. So second masculine, singular, second feminine, singular, second masculine, plural, second feminine, plural. So all the second person forms begin with tau. Then we have first common singular begins with aleph, and first common plural begins with noon. So again, that's just a review of our prefixes. The suffixes, note that several of these have no suffix. So we tell those only by the prefix and by the fact that there is no suffix. Then we see for the second feminine singular, it's got a tau prefix, but it has a heric yod as its suffix. Down here for third masculine plural, we see a shurik as its suffix and a yod prefix. And then second masculine plural, we also see a shurik suffix, but it's got a tau as its prefix. Finally, for the third feminine plural and second feminine plural, we have a na ending. And in fact, the prefix is the same for these as well. So these are identical. The third feminine plural and the second feminine plural are identical forms. And I should mention up here that the third feminine singular that has no ending and the second masculine singular that has no ending, they both begin with tau, and so those are identical as well. We tell the difference in context. So looking at our endings then, we have either no ending, a heric yod, a shurek, or a na. The table then goes through examples of these various verbs. One thing to note is that normally with these Cal Yiqtols, the prefix vowel is a heric. The one exception is with the aleph here in the first common singular, the vowel is a sagol. The aleph prefers the sagol. Otherwise, the prefix vowel is a heric for this Cal Yiqtol. Coming back over to our root, sometimes we will also see some vowel changes. So, for instance, we have Yiqtol is our third masculine singular. So, Cal Yiqtol, third masculine singular. But if I change that to third masculine plural, I'm going to put the shurik ending on it, but that's also going to change the vowel. So we had a holum up here, we take that away, and that gets replaced by a vocal schwa. So we have Yiqtolu. So every once in a while, vowels will change in the middle of the root, but mainly what we're looking at is the prefix and the suffix. And I should note that this is now third masculine plural. So we'll begin on page 44 of the Modern Grammar for Biblical Hebrew Workbook. So we're over here on page 44, and we're going to come down and look at a few of these translation exercises. Let's begin with number 5 here. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. Ha'isha esher tiktol et hamelech timlok et haaretz wa'amara ein chatat. One more time. Ha'isha esher tiktol et hamelech timlok et haaretz va'amara, or should I say wa'amara, ein chatat. So we come back to the beginning. We have ha'isha. That would be the woman, potentially the wife, probably the woman here. Now we have this very common word asher, meaning which, who, that. And so this is beginning a subordinate clause of some sort. So the woman who did something. Here's our word tiktol, and that actually comes from our paradigm word, so we don't even have to spend a lot of time translating this. We know that katal means to kill, so it sounds like a fairly violent woman we're talking about here. We'll come over to the textbook and look at our chart on page 63, and this is a strong verb. In fact, we have the root katal right here, and we see that we have tiktol here and here. So it can be a third feminine singular or a second masculine singular, and context will determine that. In this case, because we're talking about a woman, I'm assuming that we're looking at third feminine singular. So we have a Cal Yiqtol. That's what this table is. Let's come back over here now. So I'll write this out. We have Tiktol. So that is a Cal Yiqtol, or I'll just say a Y for that. Cal Yiqtol, and then it's going to be third feminine singular, and that's going to match the feminine singular subject here, which is the woman. So the woman who, and let's begin to write this out so we can start to get our bearings. So we have the woman who literally will kill. Let's just leave it like that for right now. The woman who will kill, and then what will she kill? Well, here we have et hamelech. Et is the direct object marker for the verb kill, and then we have the king. So the woman who will kill the king. Then our next verb here is timlok. Notice how similar that is in form to the one we saw before, tiktol. So with tiktol, we've got the tau, heuric vowel. Here we have the tau, the heuric vowel, and then we have the holum over the second root letter. Here we have the holum over the second root letter. And neither one of these forms has any ending, so no suffix. So I am looking again here at a Cal Yiqtol 3FS, and the root is going to be malak. Should note that the root over here is katal. Okay, so that will be then also future tense. So the woman who will kill the king will rule. That's what malak means, is to rule or to reign. Will rule, and then we have direct object marker et, and then haaretz, the land. So let's just fill all that in. Will rule the land, and then we come to wa'amara, and that is a vekatal. Amar is our root. The hey tells us it's third feminine singular, so we have a kal, katal, third feminine singular, and actually it's got a wow on it, so it's not a katal, it is a wukatal. Put a WQ for that. We parse it like a katal, but then the wow in front of it tells us that it's a wukatal. Third feminine singular, and the root here is going to be amar, aleph mem resh, amar, and wukatal will pick up the tense that came before it, so that is future tense, and she, that matches the previous subject, the woman, so feminine singular, and she will say, and then the workbook here gives us some handy quotation marks, which you will never see in the Hebrew Bible. So what will she say? Ein chatat. There is no sin, probably there is no sin offering. There is no sin offering. So that's what she's going to say. So she's a pretty desperate character. She's going to kill the king, she's going to rule the land, and then she's going to eliminate the sin offering. All right, let's move on. Let's look at number 12 here. Nivne et ha-choma wa et habatim tivnu. Once again, tivne et ha-choma wa et habatim tivnu. So we can find nivne on page 62. The noon prefix, it looks like we have bana, beit noon he. The noon prefix is a clue to me that we have a Yiqtol form, but let's go look at our table. So we can come over here to page 62, where we have the Kal Yiqtol of bana. Actually, I recommend coming down to page 63 because we have a more complete paradigm here, and the three hey verbs are over here on the right-hand side. So we're looking for nivne, and it happens to be the same root, so we're in luck. The first common plural has that noon prefix and no ending. We are also looking for tivnu, and even though the three hey drops that third root letter out, so it's got a hey, but it drops that root letter out, we still see that there is a tav prefix and that shurik ending. So we see those two features, which tell us that we have second masculine plural. So even though the three hey does something strange, if we just pay attention to the prefix, the tav, and the suffix, the shurik, we can go a long way toward parsing this. So let's go back. Here we have a Kal Yiqtol, first common plural, and our root is bana. And then over here, we saw that was also the same root, and that was a Kal Yiqtol, second masculine plural, and that is our same root, bana. I won't write it again. So that's our same root. So let's see what we have here. We have First common plural of bana would be, since it's a Yiqtol, it will be future, default to future. We will build et ha-choma, the wall. Et is our direct object marker. Choma is wall, so we will build the wall. We have a definite article. Wa'et, and another direct object marker. Habatim, the houses. And then we have our final verb here. So this is our direct object, and the verb comes after the direct object. Tivnu, you will build. So let's go ahead and write that out. We will build the wall, and I'll say, I'll write and, but I'll reserve but as a possibility. We will build the wall and or but the houses you will build. And that would be you all will build. We might say we will build the wall and you will build the houses, or we will build the wall and the houses you will build. Either way works. Let's look at the next one here. We have Tihyu Shofatim B'Yisrael Ushafatem B'Chokmah. One more time. Tihyu Shofatim B'Yisrael Ushafatem B'Chokmah. So this first verb here, Tihyu, I happen to know that it comes from the root haya, but it might be a little bit difficult to figure that out. Let's take a look at the chart. This will be found on page 63. First, we'll look at our master chart on page 63. And we noted that the verb had a prefix of tau and a suffix of shurik, so I'm thinking second masculine plural. Now, haya is an interesting verb. It is three hey, but it has some interesting features of its own. So we can look at the chart of just haya also on page 63. So here we are on page 63 of the textbook. We have the katal and the yiqtol of haya, and we're looking for tihyu. Here it is, and that is second masculine plural. It's a kal yiqtol, second masculine plural. Just as with other three hey verbs, that final hey drops off before we put on the suffix. So we'll come back over. We have tihyu, so that is a kal yiqtol, second masculine plural, and our root is haya, to be or to become. And so since this is yiqtol, we'll default that to future tense, masculine plural. Our second word here is shofatim, and that is judges. So we have that im ending. Notice that with this first vowel being unchangeable, the second vowel reduces. So from shofate to shofatim, that's judges, and that's plural, and it matches the second masculine plural. Although these two, this is not the subject of the verb, this is the predicate. I'll show you what that looks like. So over here we have you will be judges. So it's second masculine plural, you will be, and then this is describing what they will be. The predicate is judges. Yisrael, that is in Israel. Then we have Ushafatem. First I see what looks like a root here, shafat, to judge. So there's no prefix. This wow is not a prefix. That's just the conjunction and. And then I have this tem ending, and that is a dead giveaway that I'm looking at a katal form. So that is a wukatal, so kal, and then it's a wukatal. We parsed it like a katal, but the wow in front of it tells us that it's wukatal. Note briefly that it's a shurek, and it's a shurek because the first vowel of this form here is a shawa. And when a wow bumps up against a shawa, it changes to a shurek. So we're still treating it like a wow in terms of being in front of that verb. So it's still a wekatal, but it takes this interesting form. It turns into a vowel when it's in front of a vocal shawa. But in any case, it's just the same meaning, and we treat it like a wow. So that is wekatal, second masculine plural. That's what that tem ending tells us. And then our root is going to be shafat. So I'll write that in. So sheen, pei, tet, shafat, to judge. So you will be judges in Israel, and then the wekatal will hold on to that future tense that came before it. And you will judge bechokmah. Beit preposition is in by with, and then chokmah is wisdom. And you will judge with wisdom. This is chokmah. This is a short O, and I know that because I have an unaccented syllable here, and it's closed. That's a silent schwa. And so I know that an unaccented closed syllable will have a short vowel. So this is a short O and not a long A. So it's chokmah. I also happen to know that from vocabulary, that is my word for wisdom. So you will be judges in Israel, and you will judge with wisdom. Let's look at one more here. Come down to number 16. Go ahead and read that. Hamelech yechata v'hamalka Yiqtol et hanavi. Once again, Hamelech yechata v'hamalka Yiqtol et hanavi. So we begin with Hamelech, the king, and now we have this verb here. And I wanted to look at this one because it is a verb with a couple of gutturals in it. Notice that it has a chet in the first root position and an aleph in the third root position, and so the vowels are strange. But notice that it still begins with this yod prefix. So no matter what the vowels do, because of the strangeness of the gutturals, and it doesn't act like a strong verb because of these gutturals, yet I can see that it's got a yod prefix, and I can see that it's got nothing after it, no suffix. So I'm immediately thinking this is a Yiqtol form, and the yod with nothing after it tells me it's a 3ms. So without having to be able to figure out what's going on with all these vowels, I can already pretty well tell what it is. I can go look at what this is in the table on page 41. The inflected verbs. We have not had anything this complicated yet. But as I said, just from the prefix and just from nothing coming after it, I'm already pretty sure what I got. So I have a kal, Yiqtol, 3ms, and my root here is chata. That's het and tet and aleph. It means to sin. All right, so since it's Yiqtol, we'll have the king will sin. So that's the first part of the sentence. Let's go ahead and write that in. The king will sin. Hamalka, and the queen. So this is a wow, but it's just coming before a noun. So definite article ha, and then malka. So, and the queen. Yiqtol, well, we've seen that before. That is a cal Yiqtol. It could be either 3fs or 2ms. They have the same spelling, but since we're talking about the queen, I'm thinking we're talking third feminine singular here. The queen's going to do something. Yiqtol, the queen will kill, another violent woman. The queen will kill, and then et, direct object marker, hanavi, the prophet. The king will sin and the queen will kill the prophet. This is a good example of how just knowing our prefixes and our endings can help us quite a bit in figuring out how to parse verbs. Let's move on to chapter 11, workbook exercises, and we are going to come over here to the translation practice, and we'll start on page 50, and we'll look at number 7 on page 50. So we have Shamata et ha-mitzvah wativen et ha-choma. Shamata et ha-mitzvah wativen et ha-choma. So we begin with a Yiqtol form. We've seen these for the last few weeks, and that is simply a cal stem. Everything we've looked at so far is cal, and then a Yiqtol, also q, and then it is the ta ending tells us it's second masculine singular, and the root is shama, to hear or to obey. So we have you, and then default of the Yiqtol form would be past tense. So you heard or obeyed. Often when Hebrew is talking about obeyed, it will have a bait before the direct object. So let's try this. You heard, direct object marker is et ha-mitzvah. So you have the definite article and then mitzvah. You heard the commandment or the command, and then we have vativen. Now this is a classic Yiqtol form. You have the wow with a patach and then a doubling of the next letter. That would be the prefix. So without even having to go and look in my chart for bana, which is a 3-hay verb, and the hay drops off in the Yiqtol, we can verify that on page 71. Notice the Yiqtol forms for 3-hay verbs, of which bana is one. And we have wativen. Now notice that this could be a third feminine singular or a second masculine singular, either one. They have the same form. We'll need to look and see from context what's going on. One thing to note about the Yiqtols is that they are essentially Yiqtols at their heart. So if we notice where the 3-hey ending drops off. So there's three cases, here, here, and here. The 3ms, the 3fs, and the 2ms. The hey ends up dropping off when that Yiqtol prefix is put on. That is the wow with the patach. In those cases, there was no suffix to begin with. So in all cases where there is a suffix, for instance, the hirik yod remains in the Yiqtol. If there is a shurik, the shurik remains in the Yiqtol. Both cases here. If there is a na, the na remains in the Yiqtol. So the only case where you ever see anything drop off is where there was no suffix to begin with. When I see my form, which is wativen, I can tell that there is no suffix here. So if I go to my chart on page 63, I can look at these forms that have a tau at the beginning and no suffix. Well, I've got the third feminine singular and the second masculine singular. So before I even look at anything fancy like the Yiqtols, I already have a pretty good sense that I'm looking at a third feminine singular or a second masculine singular simply because there's no suffix and I've got a tau as my prefix. And I can verify that down here on page 71 in my 3-hey Yiqtol chart, where I actually see the form. So let's go back and look at what we have here. I was able to tell it was a Yiqtol form, and it will be either third feminine singular or second masculine singular. Probably since we started out with second masculine singular at the beginning, this is also going to be second masculine singular. So let's go ahead and parse that. We're going to have a cal Yiqtol, abbreviate that WA, and then that will be second masculine singular, and our root is going to be bana. So Yiqtol would be past tense, particularly when it comes after a past tense. So you heard the commandment, and you built hahoma. You built the wall. You heard the commandment and you built the wall. Et again is your direct object marker for the direct object hahoma, the wall. Let's look at number 13 here. Im yachata hashofet v'nafal b'yom echad. Once again, im yachata hashofet v'nafal b'yom echad. Relatively short. Im is if. Then we have a verb that we just saw a few seconds earlier, yachata. And as I mentioned before, the yod prefix and nothing coming after it already clues me in that I'm probably looking at a Yiqtol 3ms form. And I can verify that on page 41, but we've already parsed this one up above. So we have a cal Yiqtol 3ms. My root is hata, and that means to sin. And then we have hashofet, and that is judge, or the judge here. We have a definite article. So that's also masculine singular. It matches the masculine singular verb. So let's go over here and begin translating. If the judge sins, it is a Yiqtol. We could say if the judge will sin. Because of the if, we could probably take this as a modal form. So if the judge sins, nafal, that would be a kal katal, but it's got a vav in front of it, so it's going to be a wekatal. And nafal is the root, and that would be a third masculine singular. There's no endings at all, and the root is nafal, means to fall. And so we have, if the judge sins, literally, and he will fall. Here we supply the third masculine singular pronoun. And probably the and we could say then. The wow can be used, particularly if we begin with an if, the wow could be used as an then. So literally, if the judge sins and he will fall, we can translate that, if the judge sins then he will fall. Notice the wekatal, if it follows a future, we'll pick up the future tense, and then biyom echad. So in a day one, or in one day. Echad is one, yom is day, and we just put those together in one day. So if the judge sins, then he will fall in one day. Let's look at a last one here. We have Shalosh Nashim Halaku Yerushalama L'Ra'ot et Hamelech, coming down to the next line. Watir Eina Gam et Hamalka. Do that again. Shalosh Nashim Halaku Yerushalama L'Ra'ot et Hamelech, coming down to the next line. Watir Eina Gam et Hamalka. So we begin with Shalosh Nashim, and that is 3 women. Let's go ahead and start writing that out. Three women. So then we come up here to Halaku. Nothing in the beginning of it, and a shurik at the end. So that is a dead giveaway that we're looking at a kal katal form. So that is kal katal, third common plural. The katals have the common plural for masculine or feminine. So that matches the feminine plural subject. And then our root is halak, which means to go or to walk. So halak, 3 women, and it's katal, so it'll be past tense. 3 women went or walked. And then we have Yerushalama. Yerushalayim is, this would be Jerusalem. We have a hey at the end, which is a directive hey. So the 3 women went to Jerusalem, and now we have a infinitive construct. So it is a kal infinitive construct. The infinitive construct is a little bit funny form because it comes from a 3 hey verb. So we have the root here, ra'ah, and when a verb is three hey, the infinitive construct will end with an oat. We can see that on page 69 of the textbook. Let's look at that real quick. So we're on page 69 of the textbook, and we notice that the normal form for the infinitive construct is Yiqtol. Actually, it's essentially a Yiqtol form with the yod taken off. So you would have Yiqtol, take off the yod, you've got Yiqtol. That's what the infinitive construct looks like. And when you have a three hey verb like bana, or in our case ra'ah, the ending then becomes ot. You drop the hey off and you stick an ot at the end. And I don't know why that is, it's just the way Hebrew works. We'll come back over to our sentence. This is then a cal, which is all we've looked at so far. Cal, infinitive construct, I'll just do that IC. And as I mentioned, the root is ra'ah. And that means to see. Now, the lamed in front of it also often means that it is acting like an English infinitive, to do something. It can also mean something with an ing, so it could mean seeing, or it could mean, in this case, to see. And probably that's what we're looking at here, particularly because the women went to Jerusalem to do something. That is, they went to Jerusalem to see et Hamelech, to see the king. We'll come down here. We have a dead giveaway that we're looking at a wow consecutive, or a Yiqtol form, because we have the wow with a patach and the doubling of that first letter of the Yiqtol form. So Yiqtol, if I don't know anything else about this, I can tell this is a Yiqtol form just by that beginning. And here we have Tirena, and again we have Resh Aleph, and then that yod tells me that probably that was a hey before. I can go look at my chart of Yiqtol verbs, and that I believe is on page 63, and that will show me that a three hey verb will indeed change that final hey to a yod in some forms. One more time, let's come back over to our table on page 63, and we note that our form has a tau prefix and a na suffix. And there's two places where we see that, both for the third feminine plural and the second feminine plural. Now we also have this handy column over here for the three heys, and that shows us that for these cases that hey does drop out and become a yod. But even without knowing that, we can just look at our prefix, the tau, and the suffix, the na, and know that we have a third feminine plural or a second feminine plural. So what I have here is a cal Yiqtol, and this is going to be either second feminine plural or third feminine plural. They both have the same form. You can see that from the table on page 63. I'll need to decide which one it is from context. And since we're talking about three women all the way through, it looks like this is going to be third feminine plural. And the root will be the same as what we had before, ra'ah, to see. So three women went to Jerusalem to see the king, and they saw, that's what our verb is telling us. Gam is also, and then et Hamalka, direct object marker. Et Hamalka is the queen. So they saw also the queen, or we might translate that into better English, and they also saw the queen. The Yiqtol is past tense, particularly when we're following on a past tense, which is what this Yiqtol gave us defaulted. So past tense, past tense. The women went to Jerusalem to see the king. The idea of to see comes from the infinitive construct, and then, and they also saw the queen. So here are some examples of Yiqtol, Yiqtol, and Yiqtol forms.